Hello comic fans, here's Earl Grey. When I recently did my list of videos about my favorite comic creators, artists, writers, whatnot, there was at least one name missing above all, and that was Hergé. Just because I had not read every comic by him by far, this up for some weeks ago was my whole Hergé collection. Some well-loved softcover albums. I mean, yeah, for the most part by my kids, very well loved here. I always was aware that I had to do something in this part of my collection because I was never the biggest Hergé fan in my youth, but I liked the stuff. At the latest, when I read these comics here with my kids way back then, and this love just has gotten stronger and stronger over the years, as you can see here with these figures that I bought from some German comic shop in Frankfurt. And pretty beautiful figures here. Of course, from the comic, the two-part comic series When They Went to the Moon. So, usually Tintin comics are published over here in soft covers. I wanted to have them in hardcovers and a bit more, like you can see here, and that's the reason, or what I do with this video here is just to show you all the stuff here, and later on in other videos I will go a bit deeper into the magic of the clear line and the art, the fantastic art of Hergé. The biggest part here of the chunk is obviously this Carlsen 50 years celebration box by the German publisher Carlsen. They're somehow part of a Scandinavian company, I guess. And when they turned out 50, 6 years ago, they put out this beautiful box here. I should have bought it back then, would have saved me some money. Anyhow, now I got it for a good price, I guess, and I'm very glad that I bought it. It contains all 24 albums, including this one here, Tim and the Alpha Art. However it is called in English and French. It's a collection of his layouts and ideas and somehow the story for his last comic that was never published because he died of cancer. And yeah, so I don't really want to consider this a proper album, and I removed it from the box so I can pull out the other comics a bit easier from that box there. Just for this overview, I don't think it makes too much sense to show you every album that is contained here. As I said, I will go much deeper in future videos here. Even though you can't really grasp the magic, the wonder of these comics here. I am in love, and maybe the reason why I haven't spoiled you in the last couple of weeks with too many videos, it was a reason because I was head to toes within my little hergé-mania, or in the Hergé world. So, these hardcovers are very well done, printed on slick art print paper, as you can see, that make the colors really pop, or at least very bright. And for almost every panel, or for most of the panels, this is the right choice. By the way, you can always play the game with these Tintin comics and choose your favorite panel of this read, and on the next read through you will choose another panel, I'm pretty sure of. And one of the many benefits of ligne claire is that you almost can blow up any panel to poster size, and you will get a very decorative and beautiful poster out of it. So maybe we go from Tim in Tibet to this version here, and you will maybe ask yourself, why, Earl, why did you buy this one here as well? There's one reason, because this is in French. So now I can compare this and the German one. And there were always slight changes in the translations. And first, all these Tintin-stories came out in a Tintin magazine, or earlier in the newspaper, and this was a different kind of beast. I will go to this aspect in a minute. But even if the translations are as true as they can, there is always the change of paper. As you can see here, the colors don't pop as in the other book here. Maybe I could show you this. Yeah, that's me talking about, not going into the details, just giving you an overview, but here you can see it. On the left-hand side you have the slick art paper, and I guess it's clearly visible that the colors are a bit brighter than in the other. On the other hand, on this book here, in this book, you have this very nice, soft newspaper deluxe paper, I would call it. It's muddy, not really a good paper. I like the feel of this, and more than I like the feel of the paper here, but I like how it looks better. It's difficult. And this publication here is a part of a series called Color Facsimiles, and they did these not only in French but in English, as you will see here, and in German as well, like with this one here. And so I bought some of them. It's not easy to get some for an almost decent price, I have to admit. Like this one here, and these are other. The Mystery of the Unicorn, and here's a collected edition. That's some other thing that collects these two comics that belong together. And here's a color facsimile for the Mysterious Star, or however the English title for this one is. L'Étoile Mystérieuse is the French title. But this is the German color facsimile edition. And I guess I really have now more than enough of these color facsimiles, because they're not so different than these other here in my box. And as I said it, I slightly prefer the thin ones in my box down there. But it's nice to have all these to compare them. If you want to try the color facsimiles, I would recommend to just limit to yourself to one or two of your favorite albums. In my case, it would be Schritte auf dem Mond, or En la marche sur la lune. This color facsimile is very nice, and it doesn't hurt me to have panels like this here in two versions. Even though the darkness of the universe, the blackness of it all, is a bit more visible in this version here, out of the box. And look at a panel like this one here, It's just fantastic, and the story is very nice and gripping, and you will find yourself at the edge of your seat, like these two guys here in the down there in the control room, down there in Moldavia. So so much for the color facsimiles. What's here? Ah, yeah. Then this is a bit in the color facsimile vein as well. A really not Hergé's strongest story. It's a child book story with the long-eared Indians, like you can see there. It's really very harmless and nice story, and there's nothing, yeah, to be mad about because of the representation of the natives or something, because it just breathes this totally sense of naivety and yeah, child book nonsense that you can indulge in as an adult as well. And the book here is a total joy in terms of the paper, the reproduction, and so on. Got it for a very good price, and so I couldn't say no to it. This is another series of Hergé. I guess 5 albums. I just only have this because this is the only one that is available in German in hardcover. The Adventures of Joe, Jette and Jocko. In French, it's Joe, Zette and Jocko. Clearly done in Hergé style, not as detailed as his Tintin books at the time. A bit more, yeah, for the younger audience, but really you can cherish this one here as an old guy like me as well. And there was always the series Flupke, or however it is called in the Tintin magazine. In German, it's called Stups. These two here are called Stups and Steppke. They have some cameos in Tintin as well, but these are more two guys or two characters for fun short stories. Collected in the slipcase edition here. I'm not too fond of the reproduction always here. It's slightly a bit blurry in parts, and maybe the paper is a bit too much of this glossy kind of stuff here, but otherwise they probably wouldn't have managed to keep these books here relatively thin. And the paper is thick enough that the art doesn't shine through. And yeah, 2-page gags of a very nice and harmless kind. Not necessary by all means, but if you're on the train, on the Tintin train, like I have been in the last couple of weeks, you want to have this stuff as well. This here is a really odd one. As you may have seen, I'm a bit on the hunt for old European comic magazines, and actually I wanted to have just one copy or one issue of each different series, one Spirou, one Tintin, one Sac, etc. But I couldn't say no when I saw this book here, or this magazine of Tintin. It's a special one with 68 pages and Michel Vaillant at the wheel, and Tintin and Struppi. Just this cover alone is makes my heart sing, and it's a nice mixture of from when it is, from 1963, and it's a nice mixture of sort of a catalogue of the this automobile fair, the Salon de l'Automobile, teaching the readers about the newest models of the time and a good chunk of serialized comics. And here we have Michel Vaillant story. So yeah, very probably I will go through this magazine here, maybe on my German channel als Waschmaschine, or here, I don't know. For now, this should be enough. So these are facsimile editions as well, but of a different kind, and a very interesting one, because the first Tintin comics were published in a Belgian newspaper, and they were collected then in books of 120 pages each, so almost the double amount of pages like in the later classic albums that contain the same stories, but redrawn, remodeled, trimmed, left some, yeah, more or less random rubbish aside, but yeah, with shrunken panels, which is not so good. So this collection here of facsimiles contains the two, I would call them, Hergé's transgressions of his youth, Tintin in Russia, which shows a bit the cartoonist in the making, but yeah, the story is really not great, more anti-Soviet Union propaganda, which is, if you think of it, not as far from the truth, was not as far from the truth as some critics put it, but the story is really not great, and yeah, but it's nice to see Hergé learning to tell stories with pictures, and because of the size of the panels, his art has room to breathe, space to breathe. Then we have the second facsimile edition here, which is even more a transgression of his youth, even though his art style has a lot improved since the first one. But this really breathes the sense of colonialism and the zeitgeist way back then. Hergé was very young, so I sort of can understand how someone winds up back then in the time with this kind of book here, but it is not a good comic. After that, he slowly becomes the cartoonist that we all love, like here in Tintin in America, and Cigars of the Pharaoh. And if you want to buy one of these archive editions, who are available not only in French, German, but in English as well, and maybe in Spanish, I don't know, I would, if you can get them for a good price, I really would recommend these, because it's total fun to compare these early versions, these rough versions, with the later ones, which are a bit more much more polished and slicker, sometimes but a bit too dense, and don't have the space to breathe that they need. But the part here with the snakes, it's totally left out in the later version of the Cigars of the Pharaoh. The Blue Lotus, probably the first real masterpiece of Hergé in the later version, and in these facsimile version, it is, yeah, this book here, this facsimile edition, is as important as the colored one, I think, because the story is really so good that they could not leave out too many panels for the later version. So the later Pharao version, the Blue Lotus version, the panels within that look a bit too small. Probably I will go into the Blue Lotus in a separate video. L'oreille cassée, the broken ear, der Arumbaya fetish in German. And I don't think that they put out a German version of the facsimile edition. I couldn't find it anywhere, so and the broken ear, the English version, was just too expensive. So I bought the French version here, and there are sometimes these beautiful colored pages in between, because I think the broken ear was a bit a short story, so they had problems to fill the 120 pages. The Black Island, L'Île Noire, was one of these stories that was changed quite dramatically for the colored version. As you can see here, this book is not as old as it seems. It's from 1987. The collected edition seems to be from 1957. Actually, I would say, yeah, maybe 1957. I would have thought that it was done a bit earlier. Came out earlier in the newspaper for sure. So it's a crime to flip through these pages here, which are to me comic history, European comic history, so quickly. But this is an overview. The Scepter of Ottokar. Yeah. So, and in my Hergé fever, I grabbed these 3 books here and a comic about Hergé. Maybe some words about The Adventures of Hergé by Bouquet, Fromental and Stanislas is a biography about Hergé, how he became the cartoonist in a slightly modernized way of ligne claire, following through his most important steps in his life, and how he was obsessed with the rocket here and built this model of the rocket for the aforementioned comic. Then we have 3 books called Die Kunst von Hergé, The Art of Hergé. I'm pretty sure that this is available in French, of course, probably in English as well. It's not so interesting in terms of the biography. The texts here retell the adventures of Tintin and alongside with the most important events in Hergé's life, like here his marriage with Germaine, and here's a self-portrait. I guess it's a self-portrait. Yeah. And his advertisements, but of course his drawings for comics as well. And I will go into these books here for sure in a later video. But you should get them if you are interested in the art, and you have a lot of these pencil stuff here, the sketches, showcase just how an incredible draughtsman and artist Hergé was. So, yeah, an artist edition of some Tintin album, that would be really great. Or maybe a mix of different Tintin albums in one artist edition. However, pretty close to an artist edition is this one here. I mean, this is really huge, as you can see here. It's called Tim und Struppi's 60 Years of Adventure. And it's an art catalog that accompanied an art exhibition, I guess it was in Hamburg. Pretty sure it was in Hamburg. And anyhow, and here you have really blown up panels that you can where you can see every detail. Maybe if you look closely, you can see that each line has its history here and was changed and changed again, and he chose then the exact same exact line in the end. I will talk about these two pages in the Blue Lotus in a later video for sure. Here, but here you can see all the lines. It's just incredible, and it's really. He's really an artist. If you look closer, you will see even more details, and you see the richness of his art and all the thoughts that go into each panel, into each line. So really fascinating, and another universe that opened his doors for me, even though I was sort of familiar with some Tintin comics. But now I feel really enriched with all the stuff here, even though it made me a bit poorer, of course. Anyhow, thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.